back for another episode. Deb is not here again today because she's a teacher and she's crazy busy. Has got a lot of stuff on her plate right now. So, unfortunately, you guys are stuck with me, but that's okay because I have someone pretty awesome here today. He is an entrepreneur, a podcaster, nature lover, founder of Titan, Ethan Belloli-Ramos. What's going on, man?
Hello, hello, hello.
Is that appropriate to say like founder of Titan? I meant to ask you that before we started.
No, that's a really got it. So technically, not necessarily. It's just a brand that I owned and started with my original meal prep business a few years ago, and then now it's just kind of molded into like my brand identity, just publicly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, yeah. So no, good question. So technically, no, I'm not like the sense as the owner of Titan because actually I tried to buy that name and it's a six-figure name technically because Titan Athletic Wear owns it. So
Oh,
at least the way I spelled it. So I just use it without collecting any monetary, so I don't get sued. So it's just a
yeah.
part of my brand identity, and yeah, just part of what I've been representing for the last, I guess, now 4 years.
It's been a minute. Yeah. That's awesome,
Yeah, it's
man. Well, I
definitely been a
was
minute.
yeah, finding the name of something is pretty tough because like you said, if it's something, like a normal word like Titan, then there's a good chance that someone's got it. And then you try the different spellings like Tytan or all that crazy stuff. It's like, oh, someone also had that idea. It's a huge when we thought about the name for Connectable, um, we finally found a word that no one had, but some of the other names we had, which I'm not going to mention on here because they were stupid. It's really tough. It's like, oh, you can't find anything. Like everything is taken because everybody has these ideas. So I understand the struggle, and I've just so you know, I have a pen and paper here. I'm going to take some notes as you're talking. I'm not texting. I'm not trying to be rude, but I want to make sure I grab some thoughts as you're speaking to make sure I circle back on some things. Um, but that being said, let's start here, man. Like we always like to start off the podcast by letting people know how we're connected because it's called Connectable, and we're connecting with people and having conversations. And you and I are connected through Deb. You are a friend of Deb's,
Yes.
and you are a friend of Deb's. I don't know why I said past tense. You guys are
Yeah,
still friends as far as I know. Maybe not though. I don't know. She's not here tonight, so maybe you
yes, we still
cross.
are.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I it's this podcast and the last podcast that I was in that she wasn't on either. So I don't know if she's trying to tell me something like indirectly. So hey Deb, come on.
Hey, you know what? She might be, man. I'll tell you this. There's a couple of guests where she's done that too. Lauren Johnson is one of them that she's missed the last three or four that we've done with her. And then there's one other guest. I wish I can remember who it was. Oh, I think it was my brother. She hasn't been on the podcast with my brother for a while. So she's really stacking up a list of people she's offended. So I don't have to tell you, Deb. Yeah, show up and stop offending people.
Come on, Deb.
But yeah, anyways, that being said, you guys are as much as we joke, you guys are still friends. And
Yes.
you and I got connected because I think when Deb and I were doing the Character Combine podcast, you were always a huge supporter of that, and you were really kind and gracious to share things and like things and comment on things that we did. And I think the first time you and I met in person, you actually came out to, so we were having um, a meal prep group here in Sacramento, Meal Prep
Mm,
Roseville. They came on our show, and I think I had told you that. I think we were DMing, and I mentioned that to you because I knew you were kind of looking into that business. So you came in and sat in on a podcast. I think you even did the recap with us, if I remember correctly. Um,
yeah.
and then from there, I think once the pandemic hit, and we were doing the Zoom thing, it's like, oh well, I know you're not local here to Sacramento, but we can definitely connect on the Zoom meeting. And then you and I did a podcast together for Character Combine, which is specifically about
Hmm.
sports. We got to talk about your throwing background and all of that, and your track and field background, but um, we didn't really jump too much into the business side of things and the mindset stuff and all of that. It was more sports focused. So that's kind of how we're connected. We just started with Deb, then through social media we've maintained that connection, and you've always been a huge
Of
supporter of what we've done, man. We definitely appreciate it. So um that's how
course,
we're
of
connected.
course. I love what you guys do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
Definitely.
that.
And no, it's I like the fact that the idea of connectables, you're connecting with people that you've met in the past and new people you're continuing to meet. And I appreciate it because we've been connected now for like a year and a half, almost 2 years since I think that podcast episode.
Yeah.
And so, I'm still friends with Deb and, just actively supporting you guys or, just reaching out from time to time. I appreciate it on both ends. That's what creates those connections.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. Well, I think one of the first times you and I actually spoke on the phone, I think you had asked me, sent me a message about writing a recommendation for you. Do you remember
Oh
this?
my gosh. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
And I'm like, dang, because this has happened a couple of times. And I think I told you this on the phone. Um, and like, I think I told you, like, you seem like an awesome dude, but I don't like personally know you. And so
Yeah.
I've always made it a rule. And like, the funny thing is, like, over that course of that year prior to you asking that, a couple of
Mhm.
people asked the same thing. I'm like, well, I gotta give Ethan the same talk that I gave them. But basically, my whole thing is like, if I don't have a personal connection or like a better understanding of who you are and what you do, because you and I were just getting to know each other at that point. I said it's not something I feel comfortable doing
Yeah.
because I can't give you the best recommendation, and I can't recommend, for the business that whatever job you're applying to, I can't give them an honest evaluation because it wouldn't be fair to anybody involved. So that being said,
Mhm.
if you ever we've known each other long enough now, and I've seen and had enough conversations. If you needed one, I'd be more than comfortable to do it, man. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
absolutely, man.
If something ever comes up in my future, you'll be the first person that comes to
Oh,
my
there we
mind.
go. And you can hold me to that, man. You can play this part of the episode, and I really do mean that. And I'll say this too. You took it very. Everybody I've had this conversation with has taken it super gracefully, but you took it
Mhm.
really gracefully, which I appreciate because that could have been an awkward conversation. It's like I don't have to tell you, man. I can't. I can't bend on this rule of mine, but you were cool with it. You understood it,
Uh-huh.
so I'm glad that we're still having conversations. What'd you say? 4 years later, 3 or 4 years later. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, something like that. It was like over 2 years, around like two and some change for sure.
Definitely
And
over.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's so no, I appreciate it. And it's I think about that now. I totally forgot about that until you brought up that. Damn it, I that was, like, something, like, just funny and awkward at the time, and looking back and I could just only laugh about it.
Oh, 100%. No, that type of stuff doesn't bother me at all. I don't get awkward with that kind of stuff because I appreciate, one, I felt honored that you would even think of me for that. Like, I'm like, all right, well, I haven't been such a clown on these podcasts where he's like, I can't get any recommendation from this guy. So I felt good about that. But yeah, it wasn't awkward for me. And like I said,
Mhm.
I think it said a lot about you, the fact that you took it so well. And you're like, hey, man, I completely understand. Like I said, I've heard of other situations where that conversation does not go as well, and the person gets offended. It's like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but you're gonna have to figure it out because I'm
Uh,
not changing my mind. So you were awesome with it, man, and I always appreciated that. I even told my wife about that later. I said, "Hey, I had this conversation with this dude that Deb knows, and he was awesome with it." Like I said, not always the case. She's had some awkward interactions with that type of stuff. So, um, anyways, man, that's enough about our background. People know how we're connected. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Before I start asking some of those more specific questions, tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, kind of what you're doing now, and who is Ethan Belloli-Ramos?
wow. So, just a quick story. I am born and raised in Merced, from the Valley, 209 through and through. I was, moved around from time to time. My parents were divorced when I was really young, so, I moved from home to home in the Central Valley region, lived in Turlock for a little bit, also lived in the mountains for a little short period of time, and went to high school, was a varsity athlete 3 out of the 4 years, moved to Hawaii to go to school, stepped back from going to compete in track and just focus on school until life just happened, and had the experiences that I had to then just come back and compete up until my head injury that ended things and which led me to coaching. And that's when actually when I got onto character combine, it was like the peak of my coaching career. I was coaching about at that time about 8 athletes. Two of them were nationally ranked. Loved coaching until I just wanted to focus on my career path and started my entrepreneurship journey where I started a meal prep business that looking in hindsight happily tanked. It was an experience that I needed to have at a very young age, going from working a full-time job to starting the business on my own by myself, didn't learn anything besides YouTube, to it growing. I was able to replicate my income at 20 years old. And then, months later, I just was building so much momentum that I had no foundation that I just lost it all really quickly. And from that, learned a lot of life lessons that I actually now fortunately being able to experience now, just at a higher caliber. I went from there into a job that was a leadership role job, just a traditional 9 to 5 life. And once that actually business went under, I got offered an opportunity to be in the solar industry. That's is a trigger word in this year's all homeowners lately. And since then, I've grown very well in it. An executive sales rep for one company. I am an educator. I actually VP of sales with another in the same solar industry world. And so very proactive in it, and replicated my first last year's income, my first month in it. So seen a lot of growth and also a lot of losses as well, which I think we can definitely talk about that. The highs and lows of a new shift in life.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually one of the things I have written down because obviously, like I had mentioned before, one of the areas that you and I, well, when we initially met in person live was when you came out for our interview with Roseville Meal Prep. And I remember I think this is how it went. I reached out to you because I knew they were coming on the show and I said, hey man, would you like to come out and kind of sit in and listen to what they were saying? And so you're like, yeah, absolutely. So you sat in and listened. And then I remember afterwards you were talking to Mike and Mona
Hmm.
afterwards for quite a while because obviously you were trying to kind of pick their brain and I don't know what that conversation was about because I was cleaning up, trying to get out of there. But I know you were talking to him for quite a while, and then after that I saw you on social media and you had done a bunch of different stuff to kind of guide you towards that business. And then yeah, like I was going to ask you, like not too long after that I realized that you weren't posting about that stuff anymore and you were kind of going in a different direction. So obviously you said it worked out for the best and it's kind of led you to where you're at now. But from your perspective, because obviously I think we probably have some people on here that are entrepreneurs or people that strive to do that. And we always hear about the ups and the downs, but rarely do we talk about specifically like the downs, right? Like we say, yeah, we had some rough times and then it led us to a better place. Like, but take us to that, to the meal prep stuff. Cause I mean, and you were super gung ho about it, man. So I imagine it wasn't a lack of passion. So what was it that kind of, spiraled out of control and ended up, not working out?
I just didn't have which I'm actually more or less experienced in the instruments now. Just a lot of growing really fast, and I don't think many people. Everyone just wants to talk about the highs, reaching for the stars, trying to do all these things, but they don't have a foundation in which to get it prepared for. And more often like that, genuinely just takes time. And for me at that time, I was growing so fast and more or less just on my own. I did everything from marketing, budgeting to all the aspects of cooking, built like everything was on me. I had some support and learned a lot about time management and like small fundamental skills on like that small of a scale at the time for me at least. And I just wasn't prepared for it. And so once it genuinely does matter, how you leave an imprint on someone. So when you make mistakes and because you're too focused on growing that you don't have a foundation to, keep and retain customers, it just slowly starts to trickle under your hands and under your feet. And that's genuinely kind of what happened. I went from growing really fast, did like $3,000 in sales in one weekend by myself, like which was really great. Not sorry to throw numbers out there, but to give perspective, uh, to going to absolute zero 4 months later, just because just simple mistakes, and I had to learn it all. And yeah, I lost everything. I went dead broke, and it was just a necessary experience I needed to learn. And I was very fortunate though that I was on a small caliber, and I say small because of the metrics and perspectives I have now with my career I'm in. It's just on a different level. So, but for anyone learning and like at least listening to this, maybe like the small piece of snippet at any level is create a foundation that can withstand the empire you're trying to build. Because if not, you're just gonna fall at the end of the day. No matter how big you build it so quickly, it's gonna fall at the end of the day without any foundation.
Right. Yeah, no, I actually heard Jerry Manuel. Used to speak at he spoke at Character Combine a few times, and he was the former manager of the New York Mets and I think the White Sox as well. But he had said something at one of our events, basically what you're saying, where you know his foundation when he was talking about character, right? Like your character is the foundation, and this the strength of that foundation is going to allow you to go to build the levels above, right? So if you want to build a one-story house, the foundation's got to be strong enough to withstand a one-story house. If you want to go up that second level, it has to withstand the first and second level, right? So like each level that you try to climb, like in his case, sports, right? You have to have a foundation that can support that. Otherwise, it's all going to come crumbling down. So if you hit the major league level as a ball player, and the money, the fame starts getting to your head and it overtakes you, your foundation, if it's not ready, it's going to crumble. And so to your point, it's man, it's so true. And I feel like and you could probably speak to this more than me, but you hear stuff on Instagram and YouTube all the time. These motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, and they just say like, well, how do I achieve my dreams, my goals? And they're like, just go out and do it. Okay. I mean, it's probably easier said than done. There's some truth to that. Like you do have to jump in and get started, but there's also, like you said, I think some people jump in with that think like, hey, hear someone say like a motivational thing. It's like, oh, I'm just going to do it. And then there's all these other things that you have to be ready for. And there is like certain things. It's like, okay, there's a lot more to this than just, you know, you do make a mess and that's part of growing. And that's part of being successful. But I mean, sometimes that mess can become overwhelming. And I think that's just, like you mentioned, that's the thing that people don't always talk about.
Definitely. And I there's a quote. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna quote a lot of him, but Alex Ramosi, genuinely just been someone that his content's just been hitting me personally. But
Mm,
he said something, and actually I had a conversation with someone today that brought up the same exact quote. Is if you have to go slow to go fast, and a lot of people just try to go fast, and then they end up falling or crumbling at the end
right.
of the day. And so um, I've had to also remind myself I'm human, and I think that's something that's been like really hitting me lately. And so I wish I maybe had heard when I was younger. But you know, I had to have those experiences to get to me where I'm at now, and hearing that now, it's I'm excited for what's to come because yeah. So if anyone's listening, definitely, if you want to go fast, you got to start slow. Go slow
Yeah.
to go fast.
I'm not gonna lie, man. It's weird hearing you say something you wish you would have learned when you were younger because you're still pretty young, and so which is cool, right? Like, all jokes aside, like
Yeah.
that is a cool thing though because you learn some of those things at a really young age, like really young age, and you're still a young
Mhm.
guy, and so you still have plenty of
Yeah.
time to you know not just learn from those things, but to implement them into what you're doing now, which I think is a pretty cool thing. And yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and like I said, it is interesting because you want to well, I mean, you were part and I don't know exactly what this is, maybe you can explain it better, but I know you were a part or maybe you are still a part of, I think, Level Up Society, or
Yeah. So
maybe the name is wrong. Is that right? Level Up Society?
yep, I
Okay.
was just at an event last week.
Oh, see, there you go. And, you know, just based on your post, you're around a lot of really intelligent, really smart, really successful people. And so I imagine that when you're just jumping into this entrepreneurial world and you're surrounded by these people, obviously that's really inspiring, right? Because you see you're surrounded by people that are doing great things and the things that you aspire to do. But then at the same time, especially if we're competitive and you're an athlete, so you look at those people sometimes, and as you're getting kind of lost in just the craziness of it all, it's like that Michael Phelps thing from quite a few you know Olympics ago, where he's like I think the Brazilian swimmer is swimming next to him and had been talking trash like all week about Michael Phelps, and then they catch a still shot of this swimmer looking over at Michael Phelps, and Michael Phelps is just focused on the goal, right? And so sometimes we do that, right? We look at the person next to us and we're trying to you know replicate what they're doing, but then we get so focused on what they're doing and comparing ourselves to them that we you know end up like you said going too fast when at that point we should have gone slower. So do you feel like you know obviously it was awesome that it seemed like awesome that you're surrounded by those people, but do you think that had anything to do with you trying to I guess push the pace?
Shoot, it's still happening now. It's just
Sure.
at a it's just at a
Sure.
different level, and you know, I'm very fortunate to have the friends and associations that I have because I'm young, relatively speaking. I'm only 24, And
That's
I
pretty
would
young.
say
Older,
most of my
younger
friends,
than me.
and I would say, besides like maybe two, uh, uh, people that I surround myself with, and like one that's like a really close friend of mine, are around my age, but most of them are at least 10 years older at a minimum.
Yeah,
And so they have a lot more life experiences, but I've been surrounded by them since I was 20. And it definitely, I think it's a blessing and a curse because, we're all human. We want to compete, want to try to be as good as them, if not better. I'm always on the pursuit of trying to be better. And I have to sometimes remember, and I think I have to also, talk to people my age sometimes just to get that perspective. Like, hey, we're not at their level yet, but we have already done things that at their level they haven't done at our age. And so, if anything, we're at once we get to that pace of life that they're at, that with anything we'll be at their level, or if not better. And and so definitely it's a blessing and a curse. If you're surrounded by, top notch athletes, and you're just a minor trying to get to that level, and you just simply just see, pros every day, it's gonna wear on you a little bit. But also, if you're at least average compared to all your pro athlete friends or pro associates or whatever, then at least you're going to be above average than say just a collective group of just average people, if you will. If that makes any sense.
yeah, 100%, absolutely. That's a good way of looking at it too. Like you are, we have the ability when we're following the footsteps of someone else that's done the thing that we want to do, and they've done it at a high level, and you get to spend time with them and be mentored by them. You are, you're following in their wake, right? Like they're the boat, and you're the jet ski behind the wakeboarder behind the boat, and you're, kind of riding off of all of these waves and wakes that they're creating. And I think that's a good way of looking at it. So, and especially, like you said, they're going through a lot of these mistakes, and so if you can use that and avoid some of those mistakes, you can avoid and learn from them without having to make the same ones. Like that's huge. Yeah, so it's like a huge boost
Mhm.
for anybody who's coming up behind them. But like you said, if you have that right mindset, right? Because if you don't have the right mindset and you're just looking at
Mhm.
them thinking, how do I get there? How do I get there? And you kind of skip the process, or you're not focused on the process, then you kind of miss all that value that they're sending your way. It seems like.
Definitely. And I'm no, I'm human. I'm doing it and have done it. And so it's definitely, that's where the privilege comes in, that they can audit you and call you out on it. And then if they're really genuine your friends, they can be like, hey, like, guess what, that's what I'm doing, and I've done that before. And here's what's going to happen, and here's how to fix it when that moment happens. And I had a conversation just today about something going on, and I was like, I needed that. So it's a privilege and a curse in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Let me ask you this, man, because I mentioned you're a podcaster as well, and you started that a couple years ago. But are you still doing the podcast?
uh
Taking a
that's
break?
funny. I had
Uh
uh someone actually asked me recently. I think it was actually at that Level Up event, was asking me about it. And I've definitely taken a break. Um, I was more or less doing it for not the right intentions, which I wish I was wearing my buddy's brand with intentions at the time right now.
yeah.
But
Shout out to his buddy.
eh, shout out to Zach. And he, sorry, not he, but the idea behind the podcast is that I was just doing it more or less to uh try to create more content and not generally just try to create value. Like, I
Mm,
feel like the way Connectables is that you guys are just creating value and creating connections to bring light to people that sometimes might not doesn't have an outlet or source to create more light or like notoriety around them. There's no intention of like uh getting something in return. It's generally more or less a selfless act. While you do like connecting with these people, and you get some sort of reward out of it, but it's more of a selfless act. And I think at the time I was doing it more selfishly. And with everything that's going on, actually the career I'm in, and a lot of things that happened recently in my life, I'm actually in the process of trying to create that again. So I genuinely love podcasting. I like talking to people, but I kind of want to do a more video format, and do it in a my way. not so much just like a podcasting kind of way, more or less. I'm not explaining that. So,
Yeah.
um, if anything, this will like hold me accountable to actually doing it. So
We'll timestamp this, and then
there you go.
we'll
I
send it
like
to
it.
all of your whole circle. It's like, hey, this is what this dude said. Hold them to it. No, that's
I
awesome, man.
like it. I
I
like
think
it.
that's good. But it is interesting. Like that does happen. I feel like that's happened with people that I've seen. Not that I know personally, but people I've seen. And podcasts are so popular right now that
Hmm.
it sounds cool, right? Like it sounds cool. It's like, hey, I have a podcast, and they're like, oh, cool. And then
Yeah.
I've seen so many people, they'll do like one episode, two episodes, and then you never hear from them again. It's like, what happened? Um, so it's awesome that you recognize that, because it makes a huge difference doing the thing that you love doing when it comes to the podcast versus doing something that you feel like you're just going to put out there to, like you said, create more content or whatever. Because when you do something that you love, and it sounds like that's what you're kind of on the path towards, that's gonna be awesome. And I think it's easier too, because sometimes there's days where it's like, man, I want to have to edit this, I don't want to have to do this and that. But then it's like you always come back to like, but I really love this. And so it doesn't take, you're not in that space too long. And I think, man, I'm excited to see what you come up with, especially with the
Yeah.
video part of it and all that. um
Yeah.
Hey, if you ever need guests, just let me know, man. Don't worry about Deb.
Definitely.
Deb's had her shot. You know what I mean? Like I can't, I've been pulling this
Deb.
weight. I don't look
Deb
that
who?
big, but my shoulders are so huge from shouldering the burden of this podcast. So, you know what I mean? Just Deb, I
uh,
hope you hear all of this. But yeah, no. If you ever need a guest, man, I would love to do it. And if you're like, no, he didn't give me a recommendation.
absolutely.
He didn't get back to me for the podcast earlier. Screw Josh. He's not coming on my podcast. I understand that too. It won't hurt my feelings.
No, just out of spite, you'll be the first one. Just as like a reverse psychology on you. Just you be the first one.
Ooh. All right.
So,
Hey, I'll take
there you
it.
go. I like it.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm not gonna keep bringing up things that are no longer part of your life. I'm not gonna. This is the last time. I'm not gonna like this dude brought me on the podcast to talk about my meal prep business that tanked, and the podcast is like, what the heck? It's like a
No
hit
worries.
job. No, so let's talk about Titan, man. So obviously I mentioned earlier. Um, how did you? Which you're in awesome shape, by the way. I have to commend you on that, man. Because when we first met, you were kind of like the beginning, middle of the weight loss journey and getting in better shape. And I feel like you've gotten
Yeah.
like to another level, man.
Hmm.
Like the whole Titan thing fits. Like you're living that lifestyle, based on just the fitness. It's awesome, man. Congrats on that. Um, but like, tell me a
Thank
little
you.
bit, like what is Titan? Why did you start it? What is the idea behind the brand? Um, like what is like the mindset, all that stuff?
So I started Titan because of the meal prep business. I was trying to figure out random names. I from the Valley, so I was like Valley Prep. There's actually a business that has that, so like, okay, can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm from like the Buhat Colony region of like where I grew up, so I was like the BC Prep. I was like, nah, yeah, maybe. And then my ex girlfriend at the time, we were talking. And I was like, I'm a big fan of like Greek mythology. And I was like, Thor, Zeus, and then she brought up something about Titan. I don't know. It could have been like a video game, and like, but it was on that same like process of like, and I was like, it just like clicked. It was weird. I was driving, and she brought it up, and I had like a moment, like an epiphany moment, and I was like, I like it, and it kind of stuck, and um, it kind of took me a little while to like, like what does that really emulate with me? Something about it just clicked though, like right then and there, just like it genuinely just clicked. And the idea behind like a Titan is that it's not God nor it's human; it's a mixture of both. It's the emulation of like um, a human individual, but with the powers and character of a god, if you will. And so the idea behind like Titan at the time, and I was for fitness and health, but now it's just more the emulation of like a person. Is that we're all people, we're all humans, but I think there's like a higher being within all of us, a higher person, a better person, a god, if you will, within all of us. That very few of us have the privilege of finding. And for me, that's like been my genuinely my whole life goal is to find the God within me to this like greater, better self that I have so yet to find. And that might just be my entire life goal. It might not ever truly be that. And I think that's more or less the pursuit of life that um, I'm going for, is just creating that and finding that better self.
Yeah, I like it. That's awesome, man. Um, well, it kind of brings me to this question too, because I know a couple episodes ago we did a Q&A episode, and you were kind enough to submit some questions, and one of them, I think it was the last one that Deb read, was basically how do you go through, like when you're going through a difficult time, like how do you keep going? I believe you worded it better than I just worded it, but that's basically the question, right? And I imagine that this whole concept and brand of Titan kind of plays into that mindset for you. But I wanted to flip the question on you and hear what your answer would have been to that question. But when you, as you were talking about this Titan thing, it reminded me of that, because I know you answered that or asked that question. And so I would love to hear, man, like what is it you do, or how do you deal with difficult times, and how do you keep going forward?
Gosh, that's Josh, you're funny. Uh,
Uh-oh.
so
Why's
I'm
that?
actually going through a funny, tough, and I think that's like the coolest part about the. So I'm going through a growing phase right now in my life and my career and stuff, um, and the funny thing is that like my honest answer would be then, and I would say should be right now is go hiking, go outside.
Yeah.
Um, so like you're saying, like the me on my social media is like mental health, nature, Titan. And I think it talks about like my career.
Yeah.
But those like my three fundamentals of who I am. And nature is I think one of the best things that I've always used. Whether that was during like my recovery with my brain injury when I was in track, I couldn't actually lift weights or like do any serious physical activity, so I would just walk in the mountains, like the one thing I could do. And from it, helped me get in shape, start my fitness journey. And I think just being out in nature, there's actually a lot of scientific proof that supports, low pace movement, like long walks. And for me, at a higher elevation, and the challenge itself creates an additional um, change, but um, it just creates a lot of mental clarity and a lot of blood flow to the brain, so that creates more brain function. And I have a lot more perspective on just life because I'm out in nature, something that most people don't get to see. And so I guess I would tell myself, which I should tell myself right now, is just go outside, just go on a hike. And I think nature definitely helps a lot of people. Hence why a lot of major companies like Google, Google or Facebook, all those like major companies, they have actually like a nature region, like a garden, just for people to walk in paths and collect that form of nature. There's a lot of scientific proof that can show that it reduces anxiety by a copious amount in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And also just including of walking or just slow paced movement just improves blood flow and keeps your heart rate down, so you have a better state of mental clarity.
Yeah.
And so definitely that would be my answer without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think, yeah, I think more people would benefit from just getting outside. You know what I mean? And just breathing the fresh air. I know like a lot of people talk about how, starting your morning off with a walk, or starting your morning on doing something, jog, run, walk, bike outside is huge.
Mhm.
It makes a huge difference, just because that's how you're starting your day. You're getting the vitamin D right off the bat, and it's just a massive, massive benefit to a person's life. So, um, I think that's awesome. And that's the thing with that, man. Like you said, you don't always have like the most beautiful surroundings, depending where you live, but everybody can get outside for the most part. And so it's free. You know what I mean? So it's like this free thing that will help your mental health, your mental clarity. And you can just get outside and go do it, which is pretty awesome. And even if that was like going in your backyard, right? And just spending some
Absolutely.
time in your backyard, and just kind of walking
Hmm.
around, or like you said, if these places like Google or Facebook or some of these different big companies have these gardens that you can go in. I mean, just
Hmm.
even being outside in a small area, even if you're outside, it could be a huge, huge benefit. So I think that's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something I do every morning. And actually, that's a great thing I've been implementing on days when I'm not too tight on time, I go for a 45-minute walk outside before I do anything else. Drink
Yeah,
water, even say hi, talk to the world, just put on my headphones and just go walk.
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's huge. My friend Kevin Bracey has the his five. Ah, man, I wish I can't remember. It's like five. It's like five different things he does for 5 minutes every morning, and
Mm.
it's like I think he goes for a 5 minute walk. He goes does like 5 minutes of journaling, 5 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of I think prayer, and then like 5 minutes of gratitude. I can't remember what it is. He's really successful. Seems to be working really well for him.
Okay.
But that's something he's talked about for quite a few years now. I know it's something that he does as part of his regular routine. And so, but like I said, there's that 5 minutes of going for a walk, just where you can kind of clear your head and start the day off fresh. So there must be something to it. Multiple people are saying this. So if you guys are looking for some way to start your day off, that's the way to do it. Start with a walk. Um,
Oh, best.
so let me ask you this. So one of the things I wrote down here. Um, So, and I've never talked to you about this. So I'm just interested to hear, about this, but it seems like based on social media, um, you have a really big role in the lives of your siblings. It seems like, you're a big, mentor to them, a big role model, obviously a big brother. It seems like they're a huge part of your life. Again, not that we haven't had any conversations about this, but just based on what I'm seeing, it seems like that's the case. Um, again, going back to my friend Kevin, he has a book called Scared Great. And the whole concept is fear is not necessarily a bad thing, but something that can be used to steer you towards your greatness, right? It's the thing that if you're scared of something, it can propel you forward because, if you're, trying to walk across from one side of a cliff to another, that fear could cripple you and make you not move, or it could make you so laser focused on getting to the other side that it improves your ability to get there. Right. And so I'm wondering if his book's better. Don't take what I said as a promotion for his book. That's just the general concept. But the whole idea of like so kind of combining those two thoughts, like this role that you play in your siblings' lives, how much does that affect and improve or increase your drive when it comes to your entrepreneurship and saying like, okay, I'm going for this dream that I have, but I've got to make it work because I know that people are counting on me. Like, how much of a role does that play in your mindset?
100%, if anything, like beyond that. And almost like too much at sometimes.
Hmm.
Uh,
What do you mean by that?
that it's almost like crippling because I know the immense amount of pressure that I have for my siblings because I'm an older brother. I if anything we jokingly say that like I'm more of like uh a older younger dad to them
Sure.
in a sense. Like I'm more of like a parent to them than a brother
Sure.
to all my siblings. So uh, it definitely is a lot of pressure and a lot of pressure I'm happy to take on it because I want to show them what's possible because they don't have a lot of those people in their lives that more or less push them or to show like what is truly possible. We have had a lot of privileges in our lives, but also there's been a lot of things that I think have hindered their ideas of what could be great. And so my focus is solely just to be that type of person that more or less could be someone that they can brag about, and not just to brag about, but to know why and be proud of it, not just as like a prize, with the money or the materialistic things I may have. Just more like the work ethic and character that has been built and cultivated over the years.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And I love what I see from everything on social media. Um, it seems like they just look up to you and love you, man, which is awesome to see. As the oldest of a family of four, like it is interesting, like those different things that you just naturally kind of take on in your head. It's like, oh, it's like I feel like this is my responsibility to do this or not do this to kind of lead the way. And I think it's awesome, man, that you're kind of blazing a trail for your younger siblings and helping them see, like you said, what is possible. And you're showing them what a
Mhm.
work ethic looks like, and what taking responsibility looks like, and character, all those different things. Like that's something they're gonna be able to see. And hopefully like that just becomes like a normal part of their life, right? It's not something that they think, oh, I should probably do this, but it's just like, oh yeah, this is just what we do. You don't even think twice about it. Like working hard, right? Leading, taking
Uh,
responsibility, all the things that you're doing will just be a normal thing for them. And so that's gonna be an awesome example for them to follow. I think that's awesome, man. Um,
thank
and
you.
yeah, our friend Lauren Johnson, who's a mental performance coach, she actually just posted something today that we reshared on Instagram. And the gist of it was, if you feel a tremendous amount of pressure, that's because you care a lot. That's the gist of it. Again, she said it way cooler than I ever can, but like that's the idea. And it's like when you feel that pressure, that means you care, and that means you're probably doing the right thing. If you don't feel pressure, then you probably don't care, and then like why do it? You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you feel pressure, I think, is a testament to how much you care about your family and the example you set for them and the legacy you leave for them. So I think that's awesome, man.
Thank you. I like that. That was something I need to hear. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, man. And I would not say it if I didn't mean it. So, um, no, I think that's awesome. And yeah, it's like, no, how many siblings do you have?
Three in total. Yeah.
That's three sets of eyes that are always watching you. Yeah. Yep. So
Yep.
I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. So at this point, they don't look up to me though. They're like, this guy, what this clown?
This
We're not
guy.
following this guy. So they're all way smarter
uh,
than me, better looking than me. It's like I can't win. Like all I have is a
uh,
podcast, but at some point they're probably gonna start a podcast too and just crush mine. So I'm holding
uh,
on to this as long as I can. um,
oh
hey, so
gosh.
let me ask you this, man. So again, I'm just kind of going through your. I hate doing this, but your Instagram bio gave me a lot of good ideas about what to talk about. I don't like just
Okay.
running through the list, but that's what I'm doing right now. Mental health. I know that's something that was big for your podcast. Mental health was a big. Now, remind me, what was the name of your podcast again?
Uh,
Oh no, you forgot. Oh, geez.
Talks with Titan, I think it was something with
Oh,
Titan. Just
oh
conversations with
man.
Titan.
I'm glad you don't
Yeah.
still have a podcast right now. Can you imagine forgetting the name of your podcast as you're
Oh,
still doing it?
mental. It's mental, and like the idea was like mental, but there was actually a podcast titled Mental. So it was mental, and then like in like small letters and italic with Titan, just so that I can like use the title shit. But it's
There
titled
we go.
Mental. Yeah.
I shouldn't have asked that question. I was not expecting to like he blanked.
That's
Oh
how long
no.
it's been.
It's been a
That's how
minute.
long
Yeah.
I've been podcasted.
Anyways, that being said, I remember that you guys and I forgot the name of your co-host, but you guys did seem to focus on the mental side of things, whether it was, the mental part of starting businesses or just having, like mental health, right? Like it seemed like that was part of what you guys were doing. So where does that passion for that come from?
Uh, Mental health has been always a passion of mine. Well, maybe not always. Since I was 19, um, it was played a big role in just like my life. Whether that was, getting to like overly overweight at like 300 pounds. I was just out of shape and just not in a good mental health place. And so from there, I started my weight loss journey where I got back into shape to get into track where I stayed, 265. I was a monster guy at the time, which is crazy. I'm 60 pounds lighter than I was then. Um,
That's awesome.
to, yeah, to my competition weight to just like my daily living weight now. It's crazy to think about. And just from there, my personal mental health journey, from the highs and the lows, you know, still struggle with the depression and the anxiety during certain periods of time. And I've had some very ugly moments, and I think that's something I wanted to bring to the table of conversation, but not just to make a claim that hey, I'm in a bad place of life or a bad moment mentally, but to have conversations and how to bring awareness about it and actually just have a more authentic conversation as to why it's happening and how people at actually a high level of life. I had a lot of people on that were business owners, or high successful individuals, and just talk about their experience and how they went through it and how they battle it in their own right. Because I think it just also created also a more human element to a lot of people that more or less didn't. And so yeah, definitely that was like the big fundamental, and it's been something I still struggle with today. And I have people I now have to reach out to and can reach out to, or just sure I can just listen to a podcast and gain a clip or snippet of something I need to hear.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a big part of my life.
Yeah. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like from what I've heard and with like with whether it be mental health or different things that, a person's dealing with, once you kind of share that with people and once you let people in and let them know that, hey, man, I'm struggling with this or this, it seems like once you share that and kind of open up about that, I feel like you just start noticing people all around you that have the same thing. You know what I mean? Like where prior to that, it seems like you don't, it's like, I don't think anybody's dealing with this. But then as soon as you open up about it, it's like, oh, you see, it's like when you're shopping for a new car, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, I'm looking at this specific truck. Now all of a sudden, all I see is that stupid truck. It's kind of the same thing, but like, did you feel like that was the case once you started sharing a little bit more about that and opening up a little bit more, that you started noticing that there were more people and more encounters that you were having with people that were dealing with similar things?
I think I've always been someone that people more often come to and I
Hmm.
less go to. And so I don't think it was more or less that people felt compelled to come to me more. It was just more like, hey, like you are actually dealing with what I came to you about, say last week. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, like I'm going through whatever you're going through. And then also uh with I've been very public about anything I felt, but also not in a sense like I've received empathy, but to create conversations about someone else that might need to know how to handle it and actually like do the processes needed to fix it. Um, so if anything, it's just created more of like a me being able to be vulnerable publicly has been able to have people be able to connect with me more. Not so much. Now I don't think anyone's reach out to me any less. It's just that they are able to now understand like where I come from and that I come from more of a first person perspective, not just a third party educated. Like I actually walked in your shoes as well.
Yeah. Yeah, which is huge. I think it's always helpful when people know that there's other people that they can trust and they can talk to that have gone through similar things. I think that's a huge thing. So um and again, man, it's awesome like that you have that role in some people's lives that they do want to come to you and share those things because, especially with that stuff, you never know when like how you never know how meaningful that's going to be for someone in the moment where they're
Mhm.
really struggling, you know what I mean? So I think that's
Yeah,
awesome.
definitely.
I have to ask, man. I wasn't going to ask this, but I can't not at this point. You have if anybody's watching the video, you have a solid collection of pop figures behind you, the Funko
Oh,
Pop toys. Are these? Is it all the same theme? I can't tell.
so that's actually my roommate's, and it's his collection. And
Ah,
no, they are not. They are Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, and Star Wars. And he's had them for a few. He's collecting them, and I think he's gonna trade them, like similar to how like people do cards and stuff. I think a few of them are. I don't know, but
okay,
yeah, he collects them to. He wants to sell them one day.
all right. Hey, man,
When
if
it's,
things
yeah.
if things get like financially, if things get tight for you, maybe
Mhm.
sell a few off yourself.
What happened to that one pop? I have no idea.
And it's like,
It
hey,
just
man,
walked away.
yeah, I can't keep track of your stuff. You got to figure that out. It's not my fault. As you're driving with your car out to some dude that's ready to buy five of them. Yeah, that's I have a few myself. You can't see them, but yeah, they're Ninja Turtles and Batman. That's more my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's cool.
I wish you could see them, but yeah, the angle of the computer. I really tried hard getting those things in the shot because I thought it was cool, but no can do here. The setup does not allow. So um anyways, that was pointless. I didn't need to ask that at all. But I'm bummed that it wasn't your collection, man.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nah, that's okay. You should have just lied. It's like, yeah, it's
I should.
yeah. Um those things are super popular. I remember I forgot who it was. There was an artist that part of their writer for performances was like each city they went to, they wanted to get one, pop doll, which is kind of
Oh,
interesting. But people
that's
have
pretty cool.
some of those things are crazy. Like you hear the jokes all the time about, hey, this artist wanted like all blue M&Ms and nothing but blue
Uh-huh.
M&Ms. You hear that wild stuff, but like some people ask for even stranger things than that. It must be nice being an artist like that. Like you just ask
Yeah.
for these crazy demands, and people are like, yeah, whatever you want, sure, we'll make sure it's there for you. It's a weird world. I'm not familiar with.
Yeah. I'm not artistic, so I would never know. But hey, if someone wants to tell me about it, I would love to listen.
There you go. Not artistic at all.
Not really, no.
Okay.
Maybe like photography. I think I did take a couple nice pictures on my Instagram, but
See, there
that's
you
maybe
go.
besides that.
All right.
There
All
you go.
right. Well, maybe one day, man. Maybe we'll have you on next time. It's like, oh, I started painting, or I started doing music. I can't do music. I tried playing trumpet when I was in fifth and sixth grade, and it was awful. Yeah, you ask people in my family, it's like that. Whatever sounds coming out of your room, we never need to hear this again. This is terrible. Anyways, we've gone down a weird direction.
A little
Um,
bit, but it's funny. I like it.
that's what happens in the podcast. Um, so before we get out of here, because we got a few more minutes here, man, because we want to be respectful of your time. Um, so what's next? Obviously, you're working in the solar industry right now, but like,
Yes.
what is next for Ethan? What do you have coming up? Do you have any big projects? I mean, obviously, you mentioned the podcast eventually at some point. Um, but I mean, what else do you have going on? What other things are coming up for you, or what are some things that you would like to do?
I think in the works that I think has been transitioning my focus lately. Well, I'm in the solar industry doing well, and uh, with that, I'm still growing that, and I see a long term vision with it. But as like a passion project is, I really want to more or less deep dive into the mental health and nature side of things, which was actually something I wanted to do like a year or two ago, but I just didn't have the funds for it. Um, but now working as hard as I am and at the position of life I'm in, I think I want to do that and hop back into it and be able to create small events, collaboration events, experiences for people at any level of life to go out, help them with their mental health, or be able to see experiences because me loving nature as much as I have, I've seen some really cool places that many people don't have the privilege of seeing, and to create something out of that, whether that's just a nonprofit or uh, an event or even like another business on top of everything else, is I think more the direction and passion that I want to push more towards in the next like 12 months.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. Having like a connecting the mental health and the nature
yeah.
ideas would be pretty cool. And that actually brings to mind. I think it was when we did the last podcast. I think it was the last podcast, not the podcast that you sat in on. I think around that time you were getting ready to go on a pretty big road trip. Is that what you're referring to?
Uh, so yeah, kind of that was one of the road trips. I've done a few since, a
Okay, nice.
few multi-state ones, but that trip specifically was a seven-state road trip. Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah,
did
yeah. Okay,
7 states and stuff. Yeah, I got to see a lot from there, and actually got to connect with a lot of people on the trip, and so still talk to them to this day. So I want to be able to create networking events and create the mental health side of how nature. I there's a bunch of networking events. I love them, but I don't like being inside, and so I want to do something a little different. I don't many people have ever thought of that or heard of that, so something different.
that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you listened. I don't know how often you listen to this podcast. If you don't, that's fine too. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But we had Trevor Fong on a little while ago, and he's a, a big name here in Sacramento. But he does something called a mix and mingle, and the guy's just connected to everybody. He would be worth a follow for sure, especially when it comes to. He's a really cool guy. But as far as putting on those mixer events and networking events, he's a beast. So that would definitely be a good one to connect with.
Yeah, I'm writing it down right now.
Yeah, I can send you all this stuff, man. I'm sure there's somebody else I can think of too. But I mean, all of this stuff, I feel like I was trying to think. I feel like there's a nature person I can connect you with too. But I am blanking. I may be wrong. I may not know any nature people, and I could be lying to you right now. I can't say for sure. But I feel like there's someone that comes to mind or should come to mind. I'm missing. But I love the idea, man, of create like I said, connecting the mental health with getting out in nature and how much that benefits people. I think that'd be awesome. And obviously, man, once you get that stuff going, let us know because we would love to share it with our audience and let them know let them know it's out there for sure.
Absolutely, I'd love for you guys to even join. Yeah, there's a lot of things I think about working on. So yeah,
Awesome,
definitely
man.
keep you in the loop.
Yeah, please do. Um, Let me ask you this. What is I'm guessing you're a reader. Do you like to read? Okay, I had a
You're
feeling.
stacked on like 5 books that I've read already. So
What?
yeah,
Okay, well, okay,
yeah.
well, I want. What are the 5 books? I
Uh,
want to know what you think of our podcast.
the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership.
Okay.
Oh, the tailor-made book that you
Oh,
sent me.
okay.
Uh, a race against death. It's like kind of a nonfiction book that was like more of a fun read. Millionaire Success Habits, and then Capital Gains, like the Joyce and the Gaines family, that people that does like Magnolia stuff
Oh, my
from
wife's a huge.
HGTV.
She's a huge
Yeah,
fan. My wife's a huge fan. That's like
the
it's like if
husband
it's
has the
Sports
book.
Center's not on, then it's probably HGTV. That's probably
Yeah,
her. She also likes sports or Sports Center, but I'm not as much into HGTV. But they're incredible business people. So
it's the husband's perspective on the business and how he did it, and I was like kind of intrigued with it.
yeah, absolutely. So that's a pretty good stack. I'm not sure about the death one. I don't know how I feel about that. But like we're stacked on 4 of the 5 books. I feel pretty good about. Like I just wanted to know
They're really
where you
good.
placed our podcast. You know, I mean, if we're sitting on top of these books right now, but yeah, the death one makes me
Well,
a little
one of them is
nervous.
from you. The one that the Taylor made is from you,
Yeah,
actually, Casey
Coach
Taylor.
Coach
Yeah.
Casey Taylor. Yeah, he's a good guy. I love Coach Taylor. Um, that's awesome. So that being said, outside of the 5 books that we're stacked on right now, what is a book that you would recommend to our audience? A book that you really enjoy
Uh,
and love.
mm, Honestly, I encourage everyone to do it while reading the book, and I actually recommend you do it. Is the 75 Hard Book by Andy Frisella.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Is that
If
the
you heard of the program, like the 75 hard, 75 days of like the 5 rules.
yeah, is that the you see it on Instagram quite a bit, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's
Yes.
like, drink a gallon of water, no alcohol, working out twice a
Uh,
day. Is that the one or am I
yep.
thinking something different?
Yeah. Yep. That's the right one. Yeah.
Okay.
So 5 rules for 75 days. And that is actually what started the original tie-in business.
Oh,
And actually, the book hadn't been made at the time when I started it. It was just published like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And I think that book is definitely something that most people need to hear and read, unless and also experience the program. It definitely was an impact on my life, and I've quite a few friends actually, pursued projects and endeavors and businesses because of that book and that program. So I think that is something that and it's also a really easy to read. So if anyone says it's a hard read or like doesn't like reading, it's more of like a personal perspective on the program and why it's so beneficial to someone.
okay. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's something. Have you done the 75 challenge?
Yep, I have.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay. What was like the biggest result? I mean, physically, did you notice a huge difference or was it more of a mental thing?
definitely a mental thing.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't complete. There's 4 stages. I did 75 part, and I did stages 2 and 3. I didn't finish the fourth one, and I think um you should complete the whole program. And I think that's where like the true beauty comes of it all. That
Mm.
it's super hard. If anything, it's really kind of really hard.
Yeah.
But because of that, it develops you into someone that you ideally most optimally want to become.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm a huge fan of the program, and yeah, I recommend to anyone.
Awesome. Um, that's cool. Have you read the book Tribes by Seth Godin?
I have not.
I would recommend it. As someone who
Tribes
enjoys
by
books, I'm
Seth
going to toss
Godin.
something out there. People on this podcast and other podcasts are probably sick of me saying that because I've mentioned it so much. It's a super short book. Seth Godin is a monster when it comes to
Seth Godin.
marketing and just all those different things. But Tribes is really good, especially for some of the stuff that you said here today. Makes me think that you would really enjoy this book, and I think it'd be a benefit for sure, man. So,
I
just a
like it.
thought. And if you're like, nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not reading one of Josh's stupid books. Like, all right, fine, it's okay.
I know I'm gonna buy it now just because you said that, and I'm gonna to text you how I like it. I'm like,
This is
okay, I like
perfect.
it. That's pretty good.
I haven't talked to too many people that have had this mentality that you have, where it's like, I'm telling you all these things. You're like, I'm going to do it now. I need to try this more with people. See if it works. See if I was like, you
Do
shouldn't
it.
do it. Yeah. You said the reverse
It should
psychology
just be
there.
like a month later. Should do like a Connectables recap of like someone like me just says that like, hey, did you do it? And then
Just
like,
call
all
them out.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Just do it. Why not?
Yeah. Hey man, I wanna reconnect with you like a month to see if you can remember the name of your podcast this time. I was not expecting. I'm like, what
Yeah.
happened?
I feel bad. It's okay.
Hey, hey, you shouldn't
It's
feel
still
bad.
live. You can still listen to it.
Yeah, go check it out. If you guys are looking for a new podcast, go check it out, and then be
Yeah.
on the lookout when Ethan starts his new one on YouTube or
Definitely.
whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Um, well, hey man, this has
Do.
been fun. It's always fun talking to you.
Appreciate it.
Where can people follow you? Uh, Website, social media, all that stuff.
Um, my main source is Instagram, as everyone does. It's just my full name, Ethan.Belloli.Ramos. Uh, Belloli is Belloli, and also on Facebook, and I think those are really it. Yeah, and then actually my link tree to like websites and other ways to connect with me and any of the endeavors I'm in is also in my bio.
Awesome. So
Definitely,
make sure you guys go check out Ethan and everything he's doing. Make sure you give him a follow and just kind of stay up to date on everything he's got going on. And like I said, he posts inspirational, motivational stuff of him in nature and just some of the stuff that he's doing. So um, if you just need a little pick me up during the day, I would definitely recommend checking that out. And so
definitely.
give him a follow. Give him a follow. Um, awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate you taking some
Thank
time
you.
to chat with us. And thank you, as always, man, for the support of all these different podcasts we start. And if we start another one, I'm sure you'll be there to support that one too. And we appreciate that.
Of course, I love it. I love what you guys do. So keep doing it. I appreciate the heck out of it.
Much appreciated, man. All right, you guys, we will see you next week. See ya. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.